hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Speak the Language of Sales with MAPS Coach Kara Moll. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours on the MAPS Fast Track YouTube channel. You may access the YouTube channel from your Zoom confirmation email, and we will share the link in the chat momentarily. Currently, everyone is on mute. We do value group participation, so we ask that if you have questions, please type them into the chat box. Your questions will be addressed by your coach throughout your webinar. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me. Kara, take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Madeline. As always, fabulous job. And welcome everyone. Madeline, did you ever notice that it's all the beautiful people that show up? They show up on time and they're here. Good morning. And thank you everyone for joining me today for How to Speak the Language of Sales. The fact that you're here speaks volumes about two different things. One, your understanding that sales is the art of communication, and that when you increase your ability to effectively communicate, well, your sales are going to naturally increase. And two, your presence illustrates the commitment you have, well, to yourself, your clients, and those in your world. You're realizing with each passing day that you have the ability to dramatically impact those in your presence and leave them with more power because of your relationship. So our intention here at MAPS in being with you during our time together today is to create an experience that causes you to commit at the highest level to mastering language, allowing you to impact lives and to close more transactions. Because really, we do want to close more transactions, right? So who am I? Well, my name is Kara Moll, as Madeline said, and I've been a performance coach, formerly known as transformational, with MAPS coaching for about 8 years. I'm a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, an IPEC certified energy leadership coach, an EQ certified practitioner, and I'm a head coach within the MAPS ecosystem. All that to say, I've had the honor and privilege of co-teaching the language of sales program for over 5 years. And in fact, for those who haven't joined me before, this is the very first program I took when I came to Keller Williams. I asked my mentor, there's so many different offerings. What is it that I should focus on? And he said, language and communication. And I took the course every year, at least once a year, sometimes twice a year for about 4 or 5 years. And then later on, got the tap on the shoulder to teach it. So in fact, I'm 100% honest when I say that I continue to use and build upon the principles that we're going to talk about today on a daily basis. Now, I'm excited about MAPS Language of Sales because it incorporates some of the greatest communication tools known with the lessons and experience of powerful leaders and agents who know how to move people into action. Now, what's interesting is you may be on this webinar thinking, well, what can I possibly learn? Or there might be a time on the webinar where you say, well, I already know this. My challenge to you is, are you using it purposefully? Or is this just some conditioned pattern that you have? Could your use of language be more purposeful? And remember, what we're going to be talking about today, it really does tap into the art and science to systematically teach you brand new ways to speak in a new language. Now, before we start and you choose to actively engage in the time we have together, I want to share that I know that this can have a direct and immediate impact on your future, your income, in every area of your life. So here's my goal. In this short workshop, it's for you to walk away with something you can use immediately, and that you see the value in committing to elevate your language skills by enrolling in MAPS Language of Sales coming up in June. And we're on the video conference with a group of agents and team leaders and coaches. I even see an RD out there talking about a program that's been around since 26, which automatically tells us we're here to improve our skills. It doesn't mean that the information's outdated. what we have done is update through the most recent incarnation of this program how do we communicate, the ways we communicate, how to use this in Facebook, how to use it in social media, texting. Believe me, when this course was originally written and the tenets behind it, or behind language of sales were written, texting didn't exist. Emailing, well, it existed, but not the way we use it today. So our time here today is going to be interactive. And as part of the Zoom, of course, you have access to the chat. And remember, I'm going to ask you to mute yourself if you're not me right now. There will be times where we'll come off. I'm going to ask you to focus and think, to write, to share through the question box or the chat box, as we call it, and be open to growing through your experience here today. I'm going to ask you to get uncomfortable, because that's where the growth happens. And you wouldn't be here if you weren't looking to grow. We both know that. So this area, language, truly a passion of mine. So just take a moment and imagine what will happen to your business when you have the ability to understand, connect with, and influence prospects and clients in ways that you weren't even aware of right now. In many markets across the country, as a one-on-one coach, I talk to agents across the country and coaches of agents across the country. Markets are shifting. Things are different. Skill set, they're going to have to be buttoned down. They're going to have to be high-level skill sets. You know, imagine what it's going to be like to be able to influence your clients and potential clients in ways that you're not even thinking of right now. Go ahead and think about what it will be like to influence people when they're in your world. Just think about it. Okay. So before we get started, let's go ahead, and I'm just going to give you some quick information, but you got to stick with me till the end for a special surprise. If you decide you want to enroll, it's mapslanguageofsales.com. There's going to be 8 one-hour webinars. They're Tuesdays at 11 o'clock Central. All sessions are recorded. So if you're like, Kara, once a week, once a month, we have our team meeting at that time or something, they're recorded. You'll be able to get it later that day. We have an exclusive Facebook group, and many great relationships have been forged there. And of course, you're going to make more sales in less time. So before we really get rolling, write that down, mapslanguageofsales.com, because that's where you're going to want to visit later today. So I hope you all have some paper in front of you or something to write on. Let's go ahead and get started. Write down your definition of influence. Take a moment and write down your definition of influence. And you can even put it in the chat box if you'd like. I'd love to see what some of you are coming up with. What is your definition of the word influence? Everybody's busy typing. I love it. Your definition of the word: convincing others of my point of view, ability to encourage someone to do or not do something, help others have clarity on their needs and wants, to create a new effect upon, someone that leads others. People act on the information in a favorable way for both parties. People will follow that you advise them, the ability to steer someone into doing something or acting a certain way that benefits everyone involved. Trend, trust, affecting change, ability to move. Yes. Oh my gosh. All of that. The ability to incite action in others, serve others, using my experience to help navigate clients through real estate process, persuading another to make a decision. Every single word that was in there is part of the definition. Here's the actual definition, according to dictionary.com, of influence. Influence is the capacity or power of a person to become a compelling force on or produce effects on the actions, behaviors, and opinions of others. And you have it on the screen there. So after coaching for dozens of years in being in sales, well, probably longer than some of you on this call have been on this earth, what I've noticed is that most agents tend to talk at clients. and not give clients solutions. In the MAPS language of sales program, we focus on utilizing the language patterns as a way to influence others, allowing them to move closer to, and this is a key, their goals. Move closer to their goals and objectives. You can't truly understand another's goals or objectives without engagement. And keep in mind, you can't influence something you don't understand. Influencing for good presupposes that we've asked enough questions to truly understand the goals of our audience. We are going to ask clarifying questions like, what does that mean? Or could you expand on that? Or help me understand. Well, asking those type of questions, and those are called powerful questions, and that's something we address within the course, allows you to see the world through the eyes of the listener and through the lens, not through the lens of your perception. Because if you want someone to move forward, they have to see the benefit for them. Now, before we move ahead, I'd like to distinguish a very important point, and I touched on this. I want to make sure everybody hears it loud and clearly. Having influence is not manipulation. The definition of manipulation is exerting shrewd or devious influence, especially for one's own advantage. So if you go into something, influencing it for your advantage, then it's manipulation. But if you're looking to help them understand and influence them by providing data and resources and through your use of language to get what they want, well, then that's just exercising influence. At the end of the day, if you're in real estate for your own gain, your buyers and sellers are going to sense it through your nonverbal communication, or your conversion ratios are going to drop. They're going to sense it. How do we know this? There's an industry term called commission breath, right? If you're sitting at a appointment and you have commission breath, nobody wants to work with that agent. So if you're anything like me, you've already realized your ability to communicate at a high level is not a luxury if you have any intention of being a high performer. The two go hand in hand. What's interesting is when I began working on developing my own skills and I thought about communication, I reflected back on something that one of my mentors taught me. And it's actually from a book entitled The Power of Words by Reverend J. Martin. And it says, words are free. How I use them may cost me. Wow. Just take a moment and think about that. Words are free. It's how I use them that may cost me. Think about that. You will pay a price to master language. And trust me, you're already paying a price for your current language skills. The question becomes, are you willing to continue to pay that price? The limits of your language are actually the limits or the lid of your real estate career. MAPS Language of Sales is a program. It's meant to teach you to empower your listener in order to reach their goals and objectives, right? To have influence. And remember, there's over 8 billion, probably closer to 9 billion points of view on this planet alone. And people don't respond to your reality. They respond to their reality, right? The what's in it for me. And the agent that has the ability to meet people where they are will always, always, always control the market. And as many of the markets continue to shift or begin to shift, I'm sure you're going to understand the importance of that. In fact, your versatility and communication will have a direct impact on your success. So let me ask you this question. Has there ever been a time when you thought what you were saying made so much sense, and yet your listener failed to understand or to act on your suggestions? I mean, we call that listing appointments when we are first in the business, right? We think we're telling them all the right things and what to do. And they're just like, yeah, no, we want to think about it. Right? And you're right, Kathy. Unfortunately, that is true. So here's why. Here's what research shows. We hear about 450 words a minute, and yet our brain only processes about 17 to 25% of what we heard. So at any given time, our audience is not hearing the 450. They're hearing 75 to 115 of the words we're actually speaking. People process information based on habitual programs and the filters we operate from, which includes you. They're gonna hear what you ever hear the saying, hear what someone's hearing what they want to hear. It's not necessarily what they want to hear. It's that this is what they've been conditioned to hear. You walk into a department store, a Macy's, a Nordstrom, and you know you're going there for something very specific. And a salesperson walks up to you and says, "Hey, welcome to Nordstrom. How may I help you today?" And your response, "No, thank you, just looking." And you walk on. Well, it's because that's just what you've been conditioned to say, even though you might know you're going for something. So think about this. We hear 450 words. Our brain only processes a fraction of that. So you're starting to realize that if you're speaking, the listener, and this means your team, your buyer, your seller, your spouse, and this might explain a lot, only hears 76 to 75 to 115 of the 450 words we're speaking every minute. So it only makes sense that you must become more effective in your use of language to make an impact on your listener and empower them to take action. And that's truly what I love about language. Through your mastery, you can create a great feeling and connection with others. And when people feel good in your presence, they naturally tell others, and your business grows when you're able to create an environment that allows others to prosper. That, my friends, is done through language, and frankly, why MAPS language of sales is so important. Now, there's several psychological factors that are beneficial for you to understand and master language patterns around allowing you to help others get what they want. And one way is to determine what is socially correct, to find out what others believe is correct to them. We often view a behavior or a decision as more correct in a given situation to the degree that we see others performing or making it. So the psychological factor of influence is applicable whether we're deciding what to do with an empty tray of food in an overcrowded lunchroom, or whether or not to attend an event like Mega Camp coming up, or who to use to buy and sell a house through. So when you understand this principle, you can utilize it in your lead generation, lead follow-up, and listing or buyer presentation by providing evidence to your listener that others have displayed and desired behavior you're seeking. So desired behavior, right, of the listener. Desired behavior can be meeting with you, listing with you, reducing their price, joining your market center, providing you with a referral. The fascinating thing about language is that you, as the speaker, have the ability to orchestrate language in a way that provides an outcome that's a win-win. We know that's one of our very first principles, right? Y4C2T is win-win or no deal. So we're going to work on the utilization of social proof right now. And we're going to tie a language pattern in. Now, which will allow you to walk away today with a script you can put into play immediately. Now that's exciting, right? And for those that asked, yes, this is being recorded. So let's look at social proof. There are two conditions for that social proof is best utilized under: uncertainty and similarity. So social proof is the most influential under the conditions of uncertainty and similarity. So let's look at what uncertainty means first. When you're unsure of something and a situation is ambiguous, have you noticed that you're more likely to observe the behavior of others, start looking around, and accept their behavior as correct? Right? You may have even had this experience during, your time at a KW event or something like that. You may have walked into the registration area, looked around, and observed that, man, oh man, there is a lot going on. And you begin observing what others are doing. And then you follow the lead of others, right? It's like, oh, there's a big long line. As much as I don't want to, I probably need to be in that line. That is social proof. You're looking for what society is doing and then making a decision based on that. Or maybe you were in, let's go back to high school. And maybe you were in a crowded lunch cafeteria. You finished eating your lunch and now you're wondering, what do I do with the tray? It's your first day, you're a freshman and you've got dirty dishes in your head. You're asking questions like, do I just leave it? Do I take them somewhere? Who does the dishes around here? All these thoughts are running through your head. At that moment, almost simultaneously, you begin observing what others are doing as you see them walk out, leaving their empty dishes on a nearby tray or conveyor belt or whatever. You decide, because you're uncertain and you observed others doing it, to follow their lead and do the same thing. It's the social proof of uncertainty. Now, on the flip side, similarity means you're more inclined to follow the lead of others who are similar to you. It may have happened to you in a KW class at your market center. You know that everyone in that room is geared towards learning, and you hear an idea and you think it's a good idea. And then you observe that others are writing that idea down. So you decide, maybe I should write that down too. That's the social proof of similarity. You're all there for a certain reason, and you're looking around to who's similar to you. So here's an example. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is take out this bad boy right here and just take a picture of the screen. Take a picture of the screen so you have the script, and that way you don't have to worry about crazily writing it down. Okay. So here's, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that. And then I want you to really listen to the script. So everybody has a picture of it now. Okay, great. So here is an example of a script utilizing social proof. Okay. Hi, it's Kara Moll with Keller Williams. Do you have a minute? I felt like I owed you this call. John and Susan at 123 Hometown Road, they have the white split level with the blue shutters. Well, they recently put their home on the market after we sat down and had a strategy session. They have a goal to protect their hard-earned equity and decided that the current market is going to give them the best opportunity to sell at the highest price. Have you thought about taking advantage of the market? So what was the social proof? Was it uncertainty or similarity? You go ahead and type it in the box. You can type uncertainty, or you can just do U or S. You guys are all very smart. Right. It's similarity. Exactly. Because the listener is familiar with or similar to the people, John and Susan, that I was referring to that live at 123 Hometown Road. So let's do a quick exercise together. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to write your own script about using social awareness for similarity. Make it a script call to your database. So pull out the elements here that make sense. Alfred, this is going to answer your question. As the market shifts, this could still be the same time to protect their equity. Write your script. So take a moment and write your sample script for social proof. Okay, we'll go about 10 more seconds, and then everybody should have their script done or close to done. All right. So here was the script. Here was the script that we had on the screen. And now we're going to do the same thing. So get your camera, phone ready, or take a screenshot. We're going to look at the script again. Oh, that was your turn. Using awareness presuppositions. So here's here's what's important to know about the language pattern of awareness presuppositions. It's a very powerful tool, whether it's verbal or written. They work like an assumption, and they direct your listener to do something that they weren't previously aware of. We're bringing something that wasn't there to their attention. We're making them aware. And there are a number of different presuppositions that we're going to work through language of sales. And there's actually quite a few. And today we're just going to talk about awareness. And this is like the little snippet. Awareness presupposition makes an assumption that something is true and directs the listener to pay attention to something they weren't previously aware of before you spoke about it. And what's fascinating about the utilization of awareness presuppositions is that your listener will rarely debate or resist what you put their attention on. We create a new reality and they accept it as true. The nature of utilizing presuppositions always positions the listener to feel in the know, which causes them to feel good and feel right. And you know that people want to look good and be right. And when people feel knowledgeable in your presence, well, they want to spend more time with you. So think about what would happen to your business when people had a strong desire to be in your presence. So here's a few examples of awareness presupposition words. Begin, beginning, start, starting, think, thinking, continue, continuing, notice, noticing, become, becoming, realize, realizing. So these are all words that begin in awareness and continue, continuing. So let's take a look at if we change the script I gave earlier and I threw some awareness presuppositions in it. Okay, so just take a listen and then you can take a picture. Hi, it's Kara Moll with Keller Williams. I felt like I owed you this call, knowing the goals you have to maximize the equity in your home. Do you have a quick minute? Clearly, you're noticing the increased buyer interest in your neighborhood and how quickly things are selling. John and Susan at 123 Hometown Road, they own that white split level with the blue shutters. Well, they recently put their home on the market, and we sat down for a strategy session. Like you, they have a goal to protect their hard-earned equity and realize that with interest rates jumping up, the current market is going to give them the best opportunity to sell at the highest price. And I'm sensing you've already been thinking about taking advantage of this market. Is that correct? So anything you see in yellow is just us putting the language pattern of awareness presuppositions. We're calling their attention to something that might not have been in their attention before. So just let's look at the first sentence. We made an assumption through using the word knowing. I felt like I owed you this call knowing the goals you have to maximize the equity in your home. Now, did I know that? Specifically, no, but do most people want to maximize the equity in their home? Yes. So it makes them feel like I'm looking out for them, that I'm protecting them, that I'm on their side. And in the second paragraph, through the utilization of the word clearly, we said, clearly you're noticing. I have no idea whether they were noticing or not, but I drew their attention to it. And guess what they're doing now? They're noticing. We use the phrase like you to play on the principle of social proof, specifically finding something that could illustrate similarity. And we directed their attention that they would be thinking about taking advantage of the market, which will speed up their thoughts and thought process around possibly setting up a strategy meeting. So for your homework, take the script you originally wrote and words like clearly and sensing and noticing, and create some awareness presuppositions in it, because I'm sure you're already noticing how much more effective the second script became. Now, what could it mean if you mastered only this one language pattern that we talked about today and the concept of social proof? Instinctively, you're already beginning to understand that you need to take advantage of the opportunity to increase your sales as the market shifts through your mastery of language. Gary Keller, in the last two masterminds I was in with him last week, said your language and your relationships with your clients are going to be the most important things. He actually had us on talking about scripts. So we'll go over questions and answers in a few moments. I want to give you this information. When we began today, We spoke about the price that you're currently paying for your language skills. The moment you get clear on the calls that you didn't make because you weren't sure of what to say, or the fact that you're not nailing your lead generation time, or maybe you are, and it's just not netting the result that you were getting 12 months ago. Maybe you have a listing that you failed to get this year, or maybe you have a house that could sell, yet it needed a price reduction, or it only got one offer instead of 10. Maybe you don't even know how to do a price reduction conversation because you're so new in the business, you've never had to do them. Or you've been working for a buyer with a while and you haven't figured out how to actually help them win in today's market. There's a price you're going to pay, and yet the price to participate in language of sales is $299 for 8 weeks. Except we've got a special for you. When you register, use the code LOS20 and you get 20% off. LOS20 for 20% off. I'm going to invite you to join me in our next session of MAPS Language of Sales that begins 1 month from today on June 7th. June 7th. Our sessions are recorded. They're held on Tuesdays at 11 Central. I hope you're going to study your notes from today. And remember, I'm excited to have you join me in the MAPS Language of Sales. Go to mapslanguageofsales.com and register today. And remember to use that code LOS20 for 20% off. I have time for 1 or 2 questions. If anybody has one, please go ahead and pop them in the chat box. Or you can take yourself off of mute and ask. So Madeline put up where to sign up again. Madeline, where can they find the recording after today? I believe it gets emailed to them, correct?
So it won't get emailed the actual
Sorry.
recording. However, the link to view the recording on our YouTube channel will be included in any emails that you get.
Perfect. So if you were here today, you'll get an email follow-up with the link to view the recording. So if you're looking to go back over the scripts or any of the words for our awareness presuppositions, click on that link. You can fast forward. You know that they were about 20 minutes or later, and they will be in there. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing all of you as you increase your language skills through the MAPS Language of Sales starting a month from today. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.